Hey, how you doing? Let's do it to it. And we'll pull up a game. A second. Okay. Ready to go. Alright. White is 1926 and black is 1762. So e4, c5, so they're going down to Sicilian. Knight f3, knight d6, c3, knight f6, and bishop d3. Bishop g4. Played instantly. I felt pretty certain that this was prepared analysis, probably prepared just for me. That's what they said. One of them said she played it like super duper fast, so she had this already put into her engine, and she's just playing out the moves. Bishop e2. The novelty has its desired effect. I chose a weak and craven reply. So knight c6, d3. And you're probably wondering, why didn't you just take there? There's a reason. Queen a4. There's always a reason for moves. Just gotta ask yourself why. If they take, you lose a whole piece. And they grab your so knight there. Now this pawn is hanging, because if you play something else like maybe this here, we're just going to do a line. Now they can take this, and it is takeable. Or if you play something like this here, they can take because there's no check anymore. This is blocked. So there's always a lot of different lines. So d3 was played to hold. d4 is also a playable line. That's what they were saying. d4, c takes d4, knight takes d4, bishop takes, queen takes. Does not lose the e-pawn, but white does not play the a-pin, only to end up in an open Sicilian with a silly c3 pawn. So white doesn't play the Sicilian alpha position or something, whatever they call that, without to have a silly c3 pawn. That's why they did d3. So there's e6. Knight bd2. Bishop e7. And castles. Rook e1. and then d5. Now we get a French-like position with black's bishop outside the pawn chain, which must be good for black. My only comfort is that I don't think her opponent, black, really likes the French. So her opponent doesn't really like the French. But this is actually a type of semi-French position that sometimes they don't really like their position. So e5 and knight d7 and then d4. So this is like the advanced actually I think this is very similar to a Tarrasch variation, but a bad Tarrasch variation for white. Very bad one, because white does not want to have their knight here. They want to actually transpose this knight here and then potentially sometimes you can even transpose it via here after f4. After you go f4, you could transpose your knight back here and get this knight up there. This knight should be up here. This is a bad knight, which clogs up all of white's position. So d4, rook b8, and now white's trying to get some attack going. Potentially she could actually, rather than move the rook, have played queen b6, and if here you can actually then come out like this, and after takes, 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 and they're up a piece. So at this point you're probably going to have to take. Then knight takes, pawn takes, pawn takes, and how do you take advantage of this weak point? You really can't. So that's kind of why rook b8 was played. Was to play b5 and try to overwhelm the queen side. a3. This is kind of like a advanced variation gone wrong for white. In my opinion, I think it's a bad advanced variation. It's like a mix of a Tarrasch advanced. I don't know what to call it. I figured that I was worse here, and after casting around for some way to avoid being rolled up on the queen side, decided I'd better just move pieces forward and see if I could scatter up an attack. So rook f1, b4. They were saying that bishop h5 is an interesting move. Oops, sorry. Bishop h5 is an interesting move. Preventing the bishop, preserving the bishop could be considered here. So black could potentially because the bishop's outside the pawn chain, black can actually transpose the bishop to a better spot. So b4 was played. A takes b. C takes b. Bishop f4. Pawn takes. Pawn takes. and then queen c6 or c7. This puts her queen on a line with my bishop, which increases the tactical possibilities for both sides. Sacrifice in the center are beginning to be in the air. So potentially a sacrifice here, or sacrifice here, here, and there is a type of idea to break the center, explode the center open. Knight g4, rook b7, bishop d3. Continuing the theme of the point of the thing is a kingside attack. Rook fb8, h3, bishop takes, queen takes, and then knight f5 to guard the weak point. With a knight on f, it can never be mate. Ben Larson said that. With a knight on f8, it can never be mate. That was Ben Larson. Quote from Ben Larson. Rook knight h5, knight g6, queen g4, rook b3, bishop d2, and queen b6. Threatening to capture on d4, exposing the bishop. Like if I'll just give you an example. If this happens here, or if this happens here, now that this is attacking the bishop, so they don't have time to protect. They'll have time to take this because the bishop would fall. Yeah, let's just see. Rook e3. So now they're protecting the bishop, so the sacrifice doesn't work now. a5 is a playable move. f4 is interesting. It's an interesting line. I have seen variations combinations involving a sack in the center at early moves, but here my basically her desire is to go for a kingside smackdown. So knight takes d4. If this happens, then this is actually a playable line, and this rook, and there's nothing that's going to be able to defend this here. And this bishop comes in. It's kind of like, what? And if you play here, queen takes the rook. Sorry, I missed the rook takes there. Gotta have better board vision on that. So a5, knight takes, king h1. You grab the rook there and it's all over. So it'd be game over. That's why she played king h1. Knight b5 was kind of a odd variation for sure. C6 is an interesting line, or potentially knight there. That was a dubious move. White's back in it now with f5. Ouch! She's gonna regret that. B takes C. Bishop takes. Then she blundered with queen to c7. Queen c7 was a major blunder. Let's see if she played e6. Yep, she played e6. And this is game over now. F takes G. 2 minutes. She is playing on increment from here on out. the losing move, knight C, is critical to discover. So e6 thrust. I don't think either of us realized how big a threat e6 really is. Once white gets that in, black's position rapidly falls apart. So that's why this position is falling apart for black. So f takes, bishop takes G. They're saying that rook takes e6 is actually much better. And you then have 3 attackers on this knight. Bishop takes was okay though. H takes G. Queen takes G. Bishop e6. Bishop c5 was supposedly slightly better, trying to get some sort of an attack going with knight and then bringing the rooks down, but I doubt that there's any hope now. So knight takes. King f8. Rook f3. course, if takes here, then you basically got mate. Only thing you could do is intercept and then checkmate. Knight d6. King g8. Rook b7. Queen takes, check. So she's basically just slowly devouring her opponent. Rook f4, trying to get a mate in. Okay, boom. Pretty impressive, I gotta say. They hung in there and took the attack pretty well. Let's get some forcing checkmate moves in. Let me get this right. I have to make sure I have this. Hold on. Ah, perfect. So this was it. Okay. Let's get it cleared off right now. Okay, we'll get the board all set up. Black to move. Okay. This is what he says. The first goal of any player aspires to find some winning forcing move in his or her game. Could be calculated 2 moves ahead with absolute precision. Two obstacles fall to the pride. Too many players fall to pride and shame of not being able to see it. Somehow players seem to believe that everyone can see 2 moves ahead with ease, and they're embarrassed to admit how difficult it may be for them. So many players think that they can see how, like, 2 or 3 moves ahead, and they think that a chess player thinks that most players can actually do that. Sometimes it's just 1 or 2 moves. Bobby Fischer said it's the best move, and he's 1 move ahead of his opponent, and it's always the best one. So that's why. Let me see here. Okay, this is actually it. When I use the term computer eye in this book, I have 2 skills in mind which computers excel at, which must be learned from in order to maximize our chance of finding the correct forcing moves. Hey, how you doing? The first skill is brute force calculation, the ability to accurately analyze a series of forcing moves. The first 2 chapters focus on helping you develop these skills, and it continues to be an important theme throughout the book. The second skill is observation, the ability to find critical forcing moves which will tend to be overlooked due to human biases. Yeah, this is the book. From person to person, unlike computers, each of us has different blind spots or types of moves that tend to elude us. The following encounter helps me to bring this more into focus. What book? It's the Forcing Chess Moves. And we're learning how to calculate forcing chess moves like like a computer does. They're not ashamed if they can't see certain things. They look at brute calculation first, like forcing moves. If I take here, he'll take here. I take here, he takes here. It may be losing, but they look at all those brute force moves first and foremost, and those moves then are applied to and those then are applied to their analysis, and then they can notice weird imbalances in the position. Okay, I wanted to propose 4 moves for you to choose from. You're black. I want you to I know this sounds weird, choose the worst one here. I know this sounds kind of strange, but this one is kind of the worst one we're going to have to take a look at. Because you have to be able to spot, we're going to have you spot the best, and then we're going to have you spot the one that's actually not the best one. Black makes a big time blunder here. Okay, which one of those would be, in your opinion, the worst move? You only have to think 1 move ahead. You don't have to think like 5 or 6 to whatever this one is. Yeah. Which move for black is the worst move for black? I know that sounds like, wait a second, we're supposed to be trained to look for the best move. Yeah, but there's one that's a double question mark. It's the only losing move. The reason I want you to spot that so that you don't make that move. It's kind of like you have to spot all the inaccuracies so that you can learn what not to do. Sometimes that's that actually helps in chess games so that you don't make a mistake. You'll spot all the bad moves, then you can from that find, oh, d5. Are you sure about king d5? Oh, sorry. Let me do a different one then. Sorry, that was right. King d6 then. Oops. Actually, black is one of the New England's most feared attacking players, and lost quickly after what move? What move did he lose quickly after? This is an endgame. Give it your best choice. What was the move? Black is an attacking, basically. They didn't say genius, but he's like the English, the UK's best player. New England's most feared attacker, attacking master. So it's a New England. It's the most in the state of New England. He is the most feared attacking player. I'll give you one more minute. Oh, bishop h6. Interesting. That is interesting. But actually, no. Give it one more shot. I'll give you one more shot to think about a move that looks like an attacking move, but actually loses. It looks like an attacking move. That was a good try. That was actually a good try there. Yep, exactly. That's right. King to e4 was actually the losing move. He actually plays this odd-looking move, bishop g5. And if king d5 was actually played here, but if e takes d, pawn takes d, and or not pawn takes, king takes, sorry, and then this pawn comes crashing through. So it's a brute force calculation here. He's basically holding on to this pawn here and passing the move to black. So black's like, I'm gonna pass the move back to you, my friend. And then the bishop goes to h6. And now that oops, sorry, not h6. I had my finger over the wrong one because I didn't make sense. King to hold on, what am I doing wrong here? So king h5. That's right. King h5. Bishop h6. Hold on. Oh, okay, I gotcha. Miss calculation on my part. This is also a good. Nope. What am I missing here? Okay. Oh, I got it. He's saying this here, this, and then bishop to h6 on move 4. Ah, yeah. And black. Oh, yeah. Hey, how you doing? Black's whatever. Let's say he plays here. We're just gonna say he plays there. Bishop here, and now if the bishop goes back, this pawn comes through. And if pawn takes, let's say takes here, we have king g6, and there's really no way to this pawn's going to break through. So they're saying a whole nother idea. It's a waiting move, but kind of dubious. D4. D4 is actually a dubious move, but so this is actually a line too. So we'll just transpose this to our main idea. White can still win by king h5, bishop. This is actually what it's saying here. Bishop e4, bishop g5, pawn takes f5, bishop h6, bishop h8, bishop f8 exclam, king takes f4, king h6, f5, bishop g7, bishop takes, king takes, and king e3, h7, f4, g there, and then g8 equals queen. And I believe we've learned that that I think this potentially, because white isn't close enough to the pawn right here, we actually can stop the pawn from coming in via queen to c4, and we can actually get in. So here, and now we stop and we're winning. So he played d4, but this is actually what was played at this point. Oh, sorry. The actually double exclam move. That's actually the move that black should have seen. It's kind of counterintuitive, but this move right here is actually the winning move. Bishop king d6 is actually the winning move. It turns out that this is a miracle draw. That's what the author says. King h5, king e7, g5, f takes g, f takes g, and then king f8 is actually a draw, because at f6, king g8 exclam. The shocking move, if takes here, it's actually a plain old draw, because when he comes back we have the opposition rule again. Then he can actually just come back, and if he comes here, we come, and it's a draw. It's a plain old draw. So g8, g8, there we go. Oops. Hold on, let me make sure I get g8. Right, there we go. g8. King g4, promote variation. F8. Oops, sorry, hold on. Let me make sure I did this right. Hold on. So king f7. F6. That's right. King g8. King g4. Now this is where we promote the line. Okay, king g4, bishop f8, king f5. He's trying to get him in Zugzwang, bishop b4. White can't break the blockade. g5, king f7, g6, king g8, e6, and a3 actually leads to, now it leads nowhere now. What struck me about this game was not Black's failure to find these variations, which were often all so deep that few grandmasters would foresee them, but rather the gentleman's name is Keller. The candidate actually admitted afterward, "I would never have considered the move king d6. It is too passive, while a computer would have used a brute force calculation to find the draw. A strong master had failed to even consider the strongest forcing move due to human biases." If this was true for Keller, how much more true might it be for the average club player? In the pages of this book, we will find hundreds of opportunities to understand the moves behind typical human bias. Once we have discussed these positions carefully, your newfound computer eye will help you discover many winning, forcing moves which might have escaped your consideration in the past. And this is why they said how to use this book. To get more from this book, I would recommend the following approach. You have to basically take the variations, look at the variations, and try to work through them and see what if you would have been able to see them. Be honest with yourself. That's basically what he's saying. Be honest with yourself and see if you actually would have seen those moves. And the truth is actually sometimes better. Be true to yourself, basically, so that you can actually improve as a chess player. Because what'll happen is, if you say, "Oh, I see it," but you didn't see it, you won't find that little bitty niche, or little bitty as they say, crack in the wall that you can put mortar on and fix. Otherwise, what would happen is, if like on a dam, if there's a crack in the dam, eventually that pressure is going to build up and breach that dam. So it's better to find out where the hole is or the crack is and fix it before it's too late. So and what I mean by that is, if you're sitting down on the other side of the board of another player and you realize, "Oh boy, I should have worked on Forcing Chess Moves 3rd edition, and I would have been able to see that." Or you take a game home that you lost, but and you go over, it's like, you mean if I would have moved this over here and I didn't see it? And then it's an opportunity to learn from this. It's painful. It's painful to learn from, but it's so worth it. Next time you won't make that same mistake. Okay, dokie. We're going to do some of our puzzles now. We're going to do mate and twos. Checkmate twos. Alrighty. Let's do it to it. I know I read to you in the book. I understand. You're like, why isn't he just saying this stuff? I'm even in the process of learning, so you know what? That's one thing I'm not upset about, is I love learning as well. So I'm even in learning process. And if any super grandmaster would tell you otherwise, then they need to reconsider, because you're always improving. You never, even Fabi and Magnus, they're constantly learning new things, they're great. They're super players, but they always are learning some new variation from a computer and seeing certain saving forcing lines. Okay, it's your turn, my friends. White to move, mate 2. White to move, mate 2. King b6, b8, and rook c8. Oh, rook d8. Yep, rook d8. You got it. So let's see if because I wanted to amp it up a little bit here. Let's see. Mate 2. Yep, great work. Okay, dokie. Mate 2. Yep, there we go. I thought we would just, because we built up, I thought we would amp it up to the next level. Alright, white to move. Yeah, what would happen is the king would get your rook. This one's a little tougher. Yeah, there we go. Yep. Nice job. Nice work. Okay, this again is kind of a tough one. Yeah, and we've this is rook endgame. A little tough one of a one. See if you can find the mate. The last two are a little tougher. Rook g1, okay. There we go. Nice work. Now this next one's a really tough one. So It may take you a little bit of time to find this one. Make sure I got that right. Yep. Yep, there you go. Do you want to do a couple more, or do you want to go on to Endgame? You want to do a few more, or do you want to go on to the Endgame studies? Because we could do some more if you wanted to. Okay. Oops. Drat. Black to move. King G3, King G1, and Rook A1. There we go. You got the computer eye. Nice. The brute force lines. All right. I think there's two ways to do this. There's two ways to do this move. Mate 2. I know I'm wrong. There's only one way. Sorry. This I was thinking this way, but then he comes and there's no more check. So there's only one way. Yep, that's right. That is it. Nice. There's only one way to mate. And you found it. It's black to move. King D3. King C1 or D1? King C1 or D1? D1. There we go. And bang, there. Nice job. This is a little tougher of one. This might take you a second or two to find it. Rook d6, or d3, king a5, and rook a3. Yep, nice job. This is a little tough one. A little tougher of one here. King b3. Yep, rook h1, and checkmate on c1. Yay, good job. This is a little bit tougher. So if you need some time, take your time and just look at it. Rook d8, okay, king f1, and rook d1, okay. You want to do the end game, or do you want to do a couple more? Want to do some end game study or a few more? All right. Good job. Good work. Okay. Now we're learning, we're going to be learning a little bit more about pawns. This is the next step in our pawn and king repertoire. Okay. The two connected passed pawns can defend themselves against a lone king. White's king isn't participating, but he can't. But he has nothing to worry about since the connected pawns defend themselves. So if king e4. Oops, we'll just have white move. Oops, I better. It's black to move. I have to change that. Drat. There we go. He moves here. White comes up, and the king can't approach the area unless if he takes here, the pawn runs, and he's always one step behind the pawn. He's one step behind. So now that we have that one under wraps, let's there's ones with two pawns like this. Two passed pawns on the same rank but separated by one file have the ability to defend themselves from attacks by the enemy king. When the king approaches one of them, the other pushes. So if we play here, the other pushes here, and then if you take, it's too late. He's behind the pawn. And if you play here and he takes, it's too late. You can't catch him. So that's actually what happens. And if the king tries h5, let's say king f5, king h6, king b2, white's king begins its winning journey. If black can't pick up one of the pawns, he's doomed. So king g7, the natural king h5 actually loses to king to c3. This allows the king to approach. So he can't play this because then the king approaches, and the king's gonna h5 now. Remember, connect these two pawns up, and we got it. King f6, king h6, exclaim, more punishment for black. Now if king takes f5, h7 will lose in queen. So king f7, king c3, passing the move to black. Passing the move black, king g8. That's just it's a chess site. It's really cool. And king g8, king f6, and now remember these two pawns are connecting, and the king, if he moves here, he can't get in any further. So king h7, and then this, and he can't get in any more. There's no way to come back to stop the pawn from queening. And so if let's see, what move are we on? 5. If king let's see here, king g8. Instead of f6, there is a line. White would also win if king d4, king h7, king e5, king takes, king f6, e6, king g7, king e7, and if king g, then this pawn promotes and we win. Okay, the two pawn rule on the 6, but separated by one file can force the creation of a new queen. So we've already seen that. The 2 on the 6th are 2 on the 3rd if they're for black. Two on the thing for black. So if it's very similar if it's turned the other way. Nah, we just do chess on the site. That's the whole. That's our thing. And so now we're going to take a look at pawns that are 3 squares away. or 2 squares away from him. Pass pawns on the 6. Okay. All right. Black to move and draw. Black can force a draw since the pawns will fall. Both pawns will fall here. And we'll take a look to see. Black to move, both pawns actually fall here. King H6, or H5, sorry, not H6. Come on. King E5, King G6, if you try King G2, King takes H, King F3, King G5, King E3, King F6, King D4, King D, and then King E6, and if we come back, we come up, and we get the mating setup here. I mean, not mating, draw. So it doesn't matter. King G6. The two differences between this position and the previous one was where the pawns were only separated by 1 file apart. It is clear. In the case, the advanced F pawn covers G6 and forces the king to step backwards. So when the pawns were like this here and here, the pawn was right here instead of 2 squares apart, it forced every time the king came here, the pawn would come up and it would force the king back. And then you can bring your king in. But this way he can actually come over and gobble this, and then he's in the box. You have to always look to see if your opponent's in the box. Straight back and prevent him from taking the pawn. If we play here, H5 is no better of an idea either, because king takes H5, and then if he pushes, you can actually catch it. You're inside the box at this point. If you take it, the box is here, and you can actually enter the box. So G2, King F5, King F6, F3, King takes E, King G4, and King F6. And now all we have to do, nevertheless, it's a draw, because if the king comes here, we've made it to the escape hatches, as I like to call it, or the drawing square. Surprisingly, in this thing it's a draw, but over here it's a loss for black. Hold on, I'll be right back. I'll put on chess games. I'll be right back. I'm on. let us now. This is surprisingly the resulting of the king and two pawns on the same rank, two files apart. A lone king usually depends on whether or not the stronger king can sacrifice one pawn and use the time to bring the king into play. So if black, this is the same position as the previous one, except one thing: black's king stands on f6 instead of g. This is enough to turn the position into a win for white, because he will be left with a center pawn instead of an h pawn, as the result can create a win. So what he has to do here is, if he comes here, we can actually push. So king e5, h, king f6, king g2, king g5, king f3, king takes h, king f4, king g6, and king e5. And he's gotten in front of the pawn. King f7, king d6. The pawn will get to the fifth rank, and it will be protected and win. So if he plays like this, here we go. Even if he comes up, there's no way to stop the pawn from promoting to a queen. Okay, so now let's get back and we'll do another one. If the pawn is 3 squares away from each other, there's no way for let me see here. Oh, pawn on the fifth. Oops, sorry, a little too Donatello there. Okay. The king and two pawn on the fifth rank, 2 files apart versus lone king, is an easy win for the pawns. For the pawns, it's an easy win, because if it's black loses here. Black to move and loses. King e6, pawn push. If king f7, e6 check. And one pawn will turn into a queen, because if he comes over and grabs this, he's outside the box. So if they're two squares away, or two files apart. Sorry, 2 files apart, but it's on the fifth or it's on the third, then it's able to be queened. So that's how that rolls. Now we're going to learn three files apart. If the pawns are 3 or more files apart and not yet on the fifth rank, the defender loses unless he can immediately capture one of the pawns. Well, how does it look from the third? Okay. Oops. Okay, we'll take a look at that. Oops. I think it's something to do with this here. Okay. That's black, yeah. And if it's white to move, he can actually win here. Oh. Okay, yeah, because it works for black or for white. It's the same. Excuse me. It's the same type of setup as for black or white. They're the same. It's just he uses white because we're used to set up the board as white. So that's as they say, that's that tune. Okay. Now I gotta get some white pawns. Okay. Excuse me. So black to move, and we'll read it again. If the pawns are 3 or more files apart and not yet on the 5th rank, the defender loses unless he can immediately capture one of the pawns. If he can't capture one of the pawns, it's over. So he's going to try like d5, h, king e6, d5 check, king f6, king d6, king e6, king h6, and too easy. That's what Jeremy Simmons says. Way too easy. King d5 with h. If black takes here, this is the box now. And there's no way for him to get into the box. A queen will arise. A queen, we will be crowning a new queen. That's my thing. So connected pawns always defend each other. So we're gonna go through and we're gonna talk. We're gonna set up on the editing board. These two pawns right here always defend each other. These connected pawns defend each other, so the white king could take its time getting there. Pawns that are 2 squares away, are 1 file away, can pass pawns are 1 file apart on any rank, can usually defend themselves until the king can shuttle itself over and protect it. Usually the king's here and he shuttles himself up. The defender has the best surviving chance if the pawns are 2 files apart. They have the best chance, black has the best chance of defending if they're two files apart and they're on the 4th rank. Yeah, however, if the pawns like this are on the 5th rank, they can actually defend themselves. And there's not enough time for the king to stop them. Pawns that are 3 files apart, on any rank are too much for a defending king unless the king can capture one of these pawns. Then potentially a draw could arise. Now we're going to go over the usefulness of 2 connected passers. Black to move. King b8. Oops, I have to move the king a little closer. I have it on the wrong spot. Sorry about that. Right there. There we go. Now we're... Oops, it's white to move. Drat. Hold on, I gotta turn it to black to move. Boom, there we go. King e6. King c7. King e6. Remember? Boom, boom, boom. So the only spot you can go to is b8. King b8. and then king d7. And there's no more need to have any worries about this, because then we can just move the king in and queen. Now we have a different scenario though. You got to be really careful here. You got to be okay with sacrificing a pawn here. Oops, I have to play there. Black to move. White can still win here. So king b7, king d5, king a8, king c5. Remember, if you go here, it's stalemate if you go there, so you can't go there. King c5 is forced, otherwise it's stalemate. King b7, then you actually queen. King takes, knight goes to c6. When you play there, you push, and then the king comes up, then you move forward, and you can queen at that point. The key to this endgame and many other king and pawn endgames well is by giving up the a pawn, and which does two things. It ends most stalemating tricks, and two, it forces black to capture the pawn, which means he surrenders the opposition. You give him, you make him have to move, then you move, then he moves, you move, he moves, and then he has to move off of the X that he wants to be on, and it's too little too late. Okay, now we're going to do another section here. This one's a little different, so let's get b6. This, if we follow the advice of black, if we follow black's advice from the earlier part of this book, stepping straight back with queen b8 in the game is a draw. However, if he plays queen a2, a8, sorry, R, he plays king c8. Excuse me. The game is lost because we actually force the king, and he comes there, and he comes up that way, and then we move down. That's that. If he plays king a8, then we come here, he goes back, we push, he comes up, and then we come and we get a queen. So king a8 here. Oh, wait a second. Hold on, sorry, this is not the right setup. Pardon me on that. I believe, let me see, am I not seeing this right? Oh, I think we've, oh yeah, we already did this one. We'll do it again anyways. I have to have black move. Yeah, and this is winning. So you got to be careful where you place your king. That's why it's vital you go c2 here. And after this, he has to come here, and if it's white to move, then you win. But if it's black to move here, then you can actually draw the game. Okay, dokie. The tactics. This is a tactics in the endgame. If the in the king and pawn endgames, there are quite a few tactical breaks. Some plenty of cool, some cool ones that one must be aware of. You'll look at a couple basic examples here. We'll look at a couple basic examples here. But for more complex tactics, they're available in Chapter 9. We're in Chapter 5. So some of the higher ones are going to be in Chapter 9. But we're going to work a little bit on these. Or do you want to do some more mates and twos, or do you want to continue with some end games? Mates and twos or end games? Okay. What do you think the best move for white is here? It's white to move. Yep. G5, you got it. Exclam. Black feels pretty comfortable since he has a pass pawn in the A file. And his one king pawn appears to have stopped both of white's pawns. However, this shows to be an illusion, a fake thing. Turning his two pawns into one majority is an unstoppable pass pawn. So, and what if you tried king b1? This is actually a mistake here. King c4 and king a2 is losing. You actually lose here. But even here, I'm there. He says that this is still a saving grace move, g5. But he says g5 right away. Turns out to be a win. H takes g5, f6, pawn push, f7 push, queen, g2, and no. He's saying king f2 will win, and king check, king check. If he comes there, you can actually potentially win the pawn there. So you have two ways of winning the pawn: here, or you can even, if you wanted to, with a push, you can play check here, and you still win there. And there's no way to stop it from being captured. Now this one is a little tougher of a one. I'm not sure if you've seen this in an endgame before, but White blunders. White actually blunders here. White blunders here. So this was a losing move. King g5 was a losing move. Can you find the winning move for black? And can you work it all the way out for a queen? Just so that they queen. Can you find the winning move for black? I'll be right back. Have you worked it out for black? Have you worked it out for black? How to make a pass pawn? Would you like me to show you how to work it? Would you like me to show you the line? Or do you want to give it some more time? Yes, okay. Show it to you. Okay, first of all, you play b3 for black. If a takes, then you play the breakthrough move c3. And if he takes, then you play a4, and there's not enough time for them to get back. You come here and stop it. It works for if they take c takes d, the same idea works, or c takes b3. You go a3 at this point, and then if he takes, you go c c3, and even if he tries to get there, it's too late. It's a queen. But if white had not made a move, white can actually block up the position. Yeah, white could block up the position with b3. If white hadn't did a dubious move of g5, king g5, if black tries to take and takes and takes, now white's winning. Now white is winning. So because it shows you one, if white is the one to go b3 instead of black going b3, black gets a pass pawn. White can actually stop your pass pawn by creation of pass pawn by b3 themselves. Yep, queen here, a takes b, a takes b, c takes b, c takes b, and then king h8, h5, king g7, king f8, king g8, and then king e6. Let me see. King e5. Let me see. I have to promote variation. King g5. I want to make sure I'm doing this right. King g5, king g7, king f5, king g8, king e5, and what we do is we give up this pawn here. It's, remember the fox in the chicken coop? This is the fox in the chicken coop. He goes there, king d5, he takes, king c5 or c4, it probably doesn't matter, either one. King f6, king takes b, king e7, king c5, king d8, king b6, king c8, and then b4. King gets to b8, and then b5, and then king moves. Then we come in, he comes up, and then we queen. Now we're going to be talking about something called triangulation. Triangulation seems a complicated term that makes a chess player seem intelligent, superior to everyone else when he says, I won because I triangulated my king and gained the opposition. Utterly, I left my opponent in Zugzwang. Very impressive indeed. You know, all these different words. The fact of the matter is, triangulation, the name of a very small but often uncommon maneuver designed to give your opponent the move. As a result, instead of you having the opposition, you pass it to your opponent. And then he has to move, and when he moves, it puts him in Zugzwang. And at that point, whoever is to move loses, and it's his move at that point, not yours. So your opponent will lose. So a5 or c5, e4, boom, boom. Okay. Can white win the black e-pawn? And then the other question is, can black successfully prevent the king from getting to f4? I think that's g3 are coming in here and taking this pawn. Can he prevent that? Let's first see what happens if it's black to move. If king e5, e3, taking the opposition and forcing the king to move. King d6, king takes, king c6, king d3, king b6, king c3, and king a5, Has black stopped white's plan? No. Uh-uh. Before? No way. He hasn't. No, the destructive idea of pawn takes, king b3, king b6, king takes, b3, king c6. Remember now we push him back. Remember we come in. Remember then we check. He comes. We come over. Then he comes back. And remember what we do? We make our in route over. He takes. And there's no way to stop these pawns from queening. And because they're protected, there's no way to do it. And now we're going to go back all the way, and we're going to have it be white to move, and this is how we're going to do triangulation. It's a mouthful there. Many people would play right off the bat king to e3, which is actually a double question mark losing, because now king e5, king e2, and then king f4, and then he'll just gobble up our pawn on g4, and it's all over. Yeah, king f2. By the way, this move takes the indirect opposition, while king d2 would also take distance opposition, not direct. Sorry, distance opposition, because of one thing. Remember the 4 square rule? Remember the 4 squares? We're in when each square is the same color, each 4 squares, it means whoever moved to that square, it's the other person to move. Same thing with this here. You're still in the same squares, 4 squares. Because white moved, black has to give way now. But if it was black to move into the 4 squares, white would have to give way. So king f2, e1 check. Best try is to start with the early e5. Is easy win for white. So you have to be careful here. If you take right here, surprisingly this is losing. This loses, because then the king can actually give way. You have to give way, and they get the opposition, surprisingly. But if here, and then we play king e2, we then, after he plays king e5, we play king takes e3, and then our opponent has to give way, and then they have to give way, and then we can come back. It comes over, and the same result happens. And the same result comes to pass both ways. Do you have any questions on the end games? I kind of gone over them really fast. Do you have any questions on any of the end game scenarios that we went over? Any questions on any end games? Yeah. Let's see how we're doing here. We'll do what we'll do, because I don't want to get into, there's a bigger section called outflanking your opponent. We'll do a couple two or three checkmates and twos, because I don't really want to get into it, because it'd be in like another 30 minutes, and we'll just do a couple checkmate and twos that will end on a on that, because that's always fun to do. It's kind of a, yeah. And then we'll pick up outflanking our opponent, and I can't wait. That's a really cool topic. I remember Jeremy Soma talking about it, so it's like, yeah. But you have to give it. You'd have to give it like 30 minutes or so to get it absorbed, because some of the information you have to talk about, think about, go through it, and yeah. So white to move and mate in 2. White to move, mate in 2. My teacher and I used to go over, we would do puzzles like this at the very end, so that's why I like to do puzzles. Yep, you could do that. Actually, I think there's really only one move that, oh yeah, you're right. A 7, right? Yep, that's right, mate. But yeah, my teacher and I would do puzzles at the end. It's fun. It's funny how you end up imitating your teacher, and I guess that's the greatest honor, to imitate your teacher as a oops, one day way, because then the legacy never will die or go away. I mean, yeah. Oh, nice. Congrats on that. Congratulations. I think my best record was like 30, I think. I haven't done it in a while, so I'd probably be kind of rusty. Yep. One thing I learned about the puzzle rush, though, you can't overthink it. You have to sometimes just go with it. So don't. If you want to increase, you have to not overthink your puzzles, or the puzzles, because what'll happen is you'll end up missing out on it because of that. You'll waste precious time. And Nakamura has figured that out with some of his puzzles. He's like, "You mean all it was a one move checkmate?" Yeah. Hey, you know what? It's, you're taking the initiative, and that's what's important. And keep up the good work. Yeah, this one's a little difficult, a little more difficult. We'll see if you can solve this one. This one's kind of a little odd of one. 22. Yeah, there we go. Isn't it interesting how The queen is like the ultimate power piece, and we're like, we have to treat it like a rook. Hey, if it's mate and we get a win, it's worth it right there. So that's one thing that I've learned in chess. Even Morphy in the opera game ended up sacrificing his queen, and so if he did that and he won, it came to a bishop and rook, then you know what? Don't I'm not going to worry about the other thing. Okay. Yeah, this is a little interesting of one too. We'll do two more after this one. A little difficult, huh? It's kind of one of those that you have. It's kind of a difficult one. This one is. So don't fret if you have a slight problem with it. Got to be careful you don't stalemate your opponent. Let me make sure I have this right. Yep, I got it right. It is checkmate in two though, so it is checkmate in two. Would you like any like hints or anything? You want any hints or any help or anything? This one was a tough one for me for a little bit. You have to have the hint is full board vision. Full board vision. Um, look at all the squares that would prevent the king from moving. This right here is a stalemate, right? Because of if we move the king here, it's stalemate. But we have to somehow make the king move. We have to somehow get the queen along here. Somehow I have to get the queen along here. Ah, perfect job. Perfect. That's right. Yep. And there we go. Full board vision it was the hint on that one. Took me a little bit to find that one. I was like, how can this be? Then I was like, there it is. I like how they throw in tough ones for us to do too. It's always fun. All right. One more after this one. One more. You could do it. Hey, how you doing? Lord's Courage. you sure it's D6? Are you sure it's D6? This is D, E, F, G, H. D, E, F, G, H. So what square is this? Ah, yeah, great job. And then, yep, there we go. Good work. Nice job. Okay, one more, and then we're at 100%. We're at a perfect level at that moment. Yeah. Oops, hold on. Let me make sure. Ah, there we go. Let's see, make sure I got that right. Oops, right here. Okay, white to move. This one's a little tough. A little tougher of a one. It's mate 2. Look at a hint is restrict and then attack. Restrict the king, then attack. And look at all the diagonals. Look at all the diagonals that the queen can go to. Restrict and attack. Restrict and attack. Just look at all the diagonals that the queen can go to. And visualize where the best spot to go to is. There's a mate and 2. Can you see the mate? I put a circle where to look. Can you see? Can you see the mate now? Yep, there you go. Because this is cut off, this is cut off, this is cut off. Only move is here. And then the queen has the wonderful ability of a bishop and rook. So it has that potential of this. Congratulations, good work. Good work. The queen mate twos are always hard. Sometimes I've went over them. Sometimes I still had to look it up. I had to look it up. I was like, there has to be something here. So I even had to look it up. So some of those mates are pretty difficult that they have in the mate 2, but it takes you to the next level rather than mate 1, because we can whip those out like that. We need to go to mate 2s and we'll get stronger. Okay, do you have any questions before I log off for the night? I know it's kind of, yeah, no, okay. So, Lord's Courage, do you have any questions before I log off? Oh, good stream, okay. Well, I want to thank you all for logging on, and participating and studying. You know what? Sometimes the hardest thing to do is to retool up when you're, rather than go straight into the puzzles and, because I know we could do good, but we want to cross that 3,000 level marker. And the only way to do that is to get all of our end game and our basic brute analysis force, all that under our belt, and then we can take it and apply it to our situation at hand of the puzzle, and we'll be able to solve them then. Because I noticed that at a certain level it's a mix of brute force and a mix of end game, and you have to put them all together. So that's why we're kind of going over a while of studies of the end game with Jeremy Silman's endgame course, and then we're doing the brute force, and then we're doing tactics, mates and twos, so that we won't miss them, and then we're doing games. That's all of our mixing that we're going to do. And then when we sit down and look at those puzzles that are 3,000, we'll be like, that's a piece of cake. We know what that is. It's this, and this, and we'll have it all down. So, but what we have to remember, like what Yasser Seirawan said, every long journey begins with one small step. And we have to remember what Tango was told by Tom Thumb Thumb. Remember that treasure your victories and learn from your losses, and remember that mistakes do not define you. It's how you handle the mistake that defines you as a chess player and as a person in the area that the Lord's giving you to pursue. Bruce Lee said that he feared not the person who had practiced 10,000 individual kicks, but he feared the person who has practiced one kick 10,000 times. So if we practice our end games and we keep practicing them and we get solid as a rock, then we'll be able to see all of our end game studies and get better. He also said that knowing is not enough. So you can know a lot of information, but unless you apply it, it's for naught. And we are willing to do it, but unless you actually sit down and do it, then it's again nothing. Bruce Lee said that we also there are no limits, there are plateaus, and you must not stay there. You must go beyond the plateaus at hand. And like what E. Nightingale said, that we become what we think about. So whatever you think about, it ends up becoming. Because even in like our children's cartoons, Little Engine, that could. Rusty says, if you think you can, you will. If you think you can't, you won't. Either way, you're right. So if you believe that the Lord can help you with your chess, and you pursue it with all your might and allow Him to direct you, then everything is possible through Him. And what we have to do is always keep in remembrance that we're chess crunchers. And chess crunchers, what do? When most won't, we hang. Remember, and we're studying, and that's what happens with a chess cruncher. And some will come over and say, "Why aren't you playing, or why aren't you doing this other stuff? Why are you studying?" You can say, "I'm a chess cruncher." What's a chess cruncher? A chess cruncher hangs up their coat, they hang up their hat, they sit down and study when most won't. A chess cruncher does, and that makes all the difference over the board and in your life, and even if you're going to school. And that also is the same thing with schoolwork as well, and business and everything. But you know what? We just gotta always remember, keep our fields well weeded, and what that means is don't let time escape from you constantly. Be either like Bobby Fischer in his mind would play. They took the books away from him, and he still played chess games in his mind. So the Lord has made our minds a wonderful thing that if you can create a board in your brain, you can play the chess game in your mind, and you can be practicing certain combinations. And you know what? Always remember, and I'll leave you with one more thing, that what is your legacy? What are you going to leave behind for the next generation? Horowitz and Reinfeld left books behind and knowledge that is still treasured to this day. I always ask, what are you going to leave behind for the next generation? Okay, as Wesley So says through the Lord Jesus, and as I say, God bless, and I'll see you next time on Chess Cruncher TV. Have a blessed morning, afternoon, and evening, and Lord willing, I'll be back on tomorrow, and we're going to keep pushing forward, doing all of our studies, and improving, and shooting for that 3,000 level marker in our puzzles, our tactics. So we're going to do it. 2 thumbs up, go Team Chess Cruncher, hoorah, be blessed, and keep studying chess, following the Lord, and having fun. Bye-bye.